The galaxy's mightiest queen declared this man is my mate, and he was stunned. Alex Harper had always considered himself an ordinary man. In a galaxy full of towering alien species, starships that could devour entire planets, and warriors capable of tearing apart fleets with their bare hands, Alex was just a low-ranking officer in the Galactic Defense Force. A soldier who followed orders, cleaned his uniform, and kept his head down. But that ordinary life was about to be shattered in ways he could never have imagined. It was supposed to be just another mission. A simple observation of the intergalactic tournament, a spectacle that the galaxy's most powerful beings participated in. The arena was the grandest structure Alex had ever seen. It sat on the edge of a dying star system, its metal frame glinting under the harsh light of two suns. Hundreds of thousands of beings from every corner of the galaxy gathered in the vast stands, their cheers echoing across the star-drenched sky. Alex stood among the military officials and dignitaries, feeling out of place in his standard-issue uniform. He wasn't a diplomat, and he certainly wasn't a spectator of galactic sports. He had always found these battles, these tests of strength and power, to be nothing more than an extravagant waste of resources. But it was his duty to observe, to report back on any unusual developments. So he stood there, arms crossed, watching as alien warriors from every race imaginable stepped into the arena to fight. The crowd roared as the next combatants were announced. One of them was Queen Zerath, a name that sent a shiver down the spines of even the bravest warriors. She was known throughout the galaxy not just for her undefeated record in the arena, but for her role as the supreme ruler of an empire that spanned countless star systems. Her strength was legendary, her resolve ironclad. Some whispered that she was no longer entirely human, that she had been genetically altered to become the perfect weapon. Others claimed she could kill a man with a glance. As the massive doors to the arena opened, the crowd fell silent. From the shadows, a figure emerged, Zerath herself. She stood over 8 feet tall, her body encased in ornate armor that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal, and her eyes, dark, stormy, and full of ancient wisdom, scanned the crowd with the precision of a predator. The very air seemed to crackle with energy as she stepped into the arena, every movement calculated, every muscle honed to perfection. Alex couldn't help but feel a deep, instinctive sense of awe. Even from this distance, he could sense her power, her sheer presence. She was a queen, yes, but she was also a warrior, someone who had fought for everything she had earned. The fight began in an instant. Her opponent, a hulking beast from a distant planet, charged at her with a roar, but Zerath was already moving. She moved like a shadow, her strikes faster than the eye could follow. With a swift, graceful motion, she brought the beast to the ground, her blade piercing its heart in a single blow. The arena erupted into applause, but Alex felt oddly detached. He had seen powerful warriors before, and yet something about Zerath left him unsettled. It wasn't just her strength. It was the coldness in her eyes, the way she seemed to see everything and everyone around her as beneath her. For a brief moment, their gazes locked. And in that moment, Alex felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if she could see straight through him. Then, without warning, Zerath raised her hand. The crowd fell silent once again. With deliberate slowness, she turned her gaze to the stands where Alex stood, her eyes locking onto his as if drawn by an unseen force. He didn't know why, he didn't know how, but he felt a strange connection. A pull. He tried to shake it off, but it was like something inside him responded to her. "This human is my mate." Her voice boomed across the arena, clear and commanding, carrying through every corner of the massive stadium. The words hit Alex like a physical blow. His heart skipped a beat, and for a moment he wasn't sure he had heard her right. The crowd, at first stunned into silence, began to murmur in confusion. Gasps echoed through the stands as the implications of her words sank in. The galaxy's mightiest queen, the one who had crushed all who dared challenge her, had just declared him, a lowly human officer, as her mate. Alex's mind raced. This had to be some kind of mistake, some kind of misunderstanding. He had never met the queen before. He had never even seen her in person until today. But the way she looked at him, with those piercing eyes, made it impossible for him to deny that she was serious. The entire arena was now watching him, waiting for a reaction. The other officials beside him shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to make of this declaration. He could feel their gazes on him, their judgment. A human standing next to the Queen of the Galaxy. The very idea was laughable. What do you mean?" Alex stammered, his voice barely audible as he took a hesitant step forward. Zerath didn't respond immediately. Instead, she regarded him with that same intense gaze, as if weighing his worth, her expression unreadable. After a long, pregnant silence, she spoke again, her voice low but still carrying across the stadium. "You will learn soon enough." With a single motion, she turned and began to leave the arena. Her guards immediately surrounded her, but Alex could still feel her gaze lingering on him. She was not like any woman he had ever encountered, not in terms of her power or presence. There was something almost alien about her, a strength that was beyond physical. Alex had always seen himself as just another cog in the machine, a soldier who followed orders. But now, for reasons he couldn't understand, he had been thrust into something far bigger. The Queen had spoken, and that alone meant his life would never be the same. The roar of the crowd seemed distant as he stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. He couldn't help but feel a deep, gnawing fear. This wasn't just a political move or a strategic alliance. Zerath's declaration had a weight to it, an unspoken understanding that he was being swept into something far more dangerous than he could imagine. As the arena slowly emptied and the echo of Zerath's words faded into the distance, Alex could only wonder what it meant to be the mate of a being like her. What did she see in him, and why now? He had so many questions, but he knew there was only one way to find answers. He had to follow her, and that was a decision that would change his life forever. Alex's world was turning upside down. Just hours ago, he had been an average soldier, carrying out the typical duties assigned to him by the Galactic Defense Force. Now, he was embroiled in something far greater than he could have ever imagined. The galaxy's most powerful ruler had just declared him her mate, and he had no idea why or what it meant. All he knew was that he couldn't turn back now. Whatever path had been set for him, he had no choice but to walk it. He had been escorted off the arena grounds almost immediately after Zerath's declaration. The officials, diplomats, and other dignitaries who had been standing beside him had quickly disappeared, leaving him alone with a small group of guards. They didn't speak to him as they led him through the winding corridors of the arena, but Alex felt their eyes on him the entire way. He could feel their judgment, their curiosity. Some of them had been at the tournament for years, watching the mightiest beings in the galaxy fight for glory, and now they were looking at him like he was something special. He had no idea how to respond. How was he supposed to react to something like this? The Queen of the Galaxy, the most feared and respected ruler in all known space, had chosen him as her mate. He didn't even know what that meant in the context of galactic politics or culture. He was just a soldier, a human, who had no real power or influence. The halls they passed through were grand and decorated with alien art and artifacts. The walls seemed to pulse with an energy that Alex could feel in his bones, a constant reminder of just how different and advanced the civilization he was now a part of really was. Zerath's empire spanned thousands of planets, and she ruled with an iron fist, respected and feared by nearly every species in the galaxy. The idea that he, a low-ranking officer from a tiny, insignificant planet, would be her mate was almost laughable, if it weren't for the fact that she had said it in front of thousands of witnesses. Eventually, they arrived at a sleek transport ship, one that looked far more advanced than anything Alex had ever seen. The guards motioned for him to board, and he hesitated for a moment, unsure of what was to come. He was stepping into unknown territory, both literally and figuratively. This wasn't just a diplomatic mission or a routine assignment. It was the beginning of something that would shape his future, and perhaps the future of the entire galaxy. The inside of the ship was just as grand as the rest of the facility. It was quiet, almost eerily so, with soft, pulsating lights that illuminated the dark interior. Alex was led to a seat in the middle of the room, surrounded by more guards, their faces cold and impassive. They didn't speak, and neither did he. He wasn't sure if he was supposed to say anything, or if it was just a matter of waiting for Zerath herself to arrive. Minutes passed, maybe even an hour, before the door at the far end of the room slid open. Zerath entered, and the entire atmosphere in the room seemed to shift. There was something magnetic about her presence, something that made it impossible for Alex to look away. She was tall and imposing, her silver armor gleaming even in the dim light. But it wasn't just her physical appearance that commanded attention. It was her aura, the power that radiated from her, the confidence that seemed to fill every inch of the space she occupied. She walked toward him, and for the first time, Alex realized just how different she was from anyone he had ever met. Zerath was no ordinary ruler. She wasn't just a queen. She was a force of nature, a being whose very existence was intertwined with the fate of the galaxy. And now, for reasons unknown to him, she had chosen him. "Alex Harper," she said, her voice deep and resonant. It wasn't the voice of a tyrant or a conqueror, but of someone who had seen everything the galaxy had to offer and had ruled it with wisdom and strength. "You are my mate." That declaration was not made lightly. Alex opened his mouth, but no words came out. He had so many questions, so many things he wanted to say, but he didn't know where to start. The very idea of being her mate seemed impossible. He was just a human. Nothing special. What did Zerath see in him? She seemed to read his thoughts, her eyes narrowing slightly as she studied him. "I understand your confusion," she said, her tone softening just a fraction. "But this is not just a matter of personal choice. It is a bond that goes beyond our individual desires." Alex blinked, trying to process what she was saying. He had heard rumors about the Queen's ability to form bonds with other beings, but he had never taken them seriously. There were stories about her choosing champions from various species, elevating them to positions of power, but this was something entirely different. She wasn't just talking about a political alliance. She was speaking as if they shared something deeper. She moved to sit beside him, her gaze never leaving his. "You are human. Your species is different from any I've encountered. There is a resonance in you that I have not felt before. It calls to me." Alex shook his head, still trying to make sense of her words. "I don't understand," he muttered. "I'm just a soldier. I don't have anything to offer someone like you." Zerath's lips curled into a faint smile, though it wasn't an expression of amusement. It was something more complex, something that Alex couldn't quite place. "You are more than you realize. Do not underestimate yourself, Alex. Your kind, humans, have an untapped potential that no one here has understood, perhaps not even you." Alex looked at her, his confusion growing. He had no idea what she was talking about, but there was something in the way she spoke that made him believe she wasn't lying. She was telling him something important, something that had the potential to change everything. "But why me?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Why now? Why a soldier of all people?" Zerath leaned closer, her face now only a few inches from his. The intensity of her gaze was almost overwhelming, but Alex couldn't look away. "Because," she said quietly, "the time has come for the galaxy to change. And you, Alex Harper, are the key to that change." Her words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Alex felt a chill run through him, as if the entire fate of the galaxy was now resting on his shoulders. He had no idea what Zerath meant, but the seriousness in her voice left no room for doubt. She was not playing some political game. This was real. Before Alex could respond, the ship suddenly lurched, and a sharp alarm echoed throughout the room. Zerath stood up, her eyes flashing with purpose. "We are not alone," she said, her voice now filled with a cold, commanding authority. "Prepare yourself." The guards immediately sprang into action, surrounding Alex and Zerath, but Alex was still reeling from everything that had just been said. The sudden shift in atmosphere only made him more anxious. What was going on? Who was attacking them? But Zerath remained calm, her eyes narrowing as she assessed the situation. "Stay close to me," she ordered, her tone unwavering. As the ship continued to shake, Alex realized that whatever was happening, it wasn't just an attack, it was something more. The Queen's declaration, the bond they shared, everything was part of a larger, much more dangerous game. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was caught up in the fate of the galaxy, whether he wanted to be or not. And in that moment, Alex Harper realized that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't even begin to understand. The ship's shaking intensified, and Alex felt his heart race as the alarms blared louder. Zerath stood tall and composed, her hands calmly clasped in front of her, as though the situation was nothing more than an inconvenience. Her warriors, who had initially been silent and passive, were now alert and ready for action, their weapons drawn and their eyes scanning the surroundings for any threat. Alex stood beside her, unsure of what was happening but trusting her calm demeanor. His thoughts raced. Zerath had told him they were not alone. The sudden shift in the atmosphere had made it clear that whatever they were facing, it was serious. The Queen's ship had been moving at a high velocity, and now, whatever or whoever was attacking them had caught up. he wasn't a fighter. He had never been trained for anything like this. But something about Zerath's presence calmed him. It wasn't just her strength, it was the confidence in her, the way she carried herself as if nothing could touch her. He had never been around someone like her, and for the first time he wondered if maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to contribute to her cause. "What's happening?" Alex asked, his voice barely rising above the noise. Zerath's gaze didn't leave the view outside the ship, where flashes of energy were lighting up the space around them. Her face was a mask of concentration, and Alex could tell she was assessing every detail, making decisions in the blink of an eye. "The ship is under attack," she said calmly. "It seems we have unwanted company." Before Alex could respond, one of the guards, a tall, armored alien with green skin, approached them. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The attackers have breached the outer defense systems. They are boarding as we speak." Zerath nodded without a hint of panic. "Prepare the secondary defense grid. I want them stopped before they reach the core." The guard nodded and rushed off to relay her orders, but Alex's mind was still reeling from what was unfolding. He had no idea what kind of enemies Zerath had, but the calmness with which she handled the situation gave him a sense of reassurance. There was no room for doubt. She was in control. She always had been. As the ship continued to shake, Alex felt a pang of frustration. He had no skills in combat. He had no idea how to fight in space. He was just a soldier who followed orders, nothing more. But standing here, by the side of the galaxy's most powerful queen, he felt the weight of something far greater than himself. The realization struck him like a blow to the chest. Whatever Zerath's declaration meant, whatever role he had been given in this galaxy-spanning drama, it wasn't just about him anymore. He was part of something larger, a greater cause that he didn't fully understand yet. His thoughts were interrupted by the loud sound of footsteps approaching. Zerath's guards had taken their positions, weapons at the ready, and Alex found himself being ushered into a hallway, away from the main bridge. The corridors were narrow, but they quickly made their way to a control room deep inside the ship. Here, everything was sleek and sophisticated, holographic displays flickering to life as soon as they entered. Zerath moved to the central console, her fingers dancing across the glowing controls. With each touch, the ship's defenses came to life. Alex could see it all happening, shields activating, weapons systems locking into place, and the thrusters shifting as the ship prepared to maneuver. "Who are they?" Alex asked, unable to keep the question to himself any longer. "Why are they attacking?" Zerath paused for a moment, her eyes narrowing as she analyzed the incoming data. "They are mercenaries," she replied. "Hired by one of my rivals. They think they can weaken me, destabilize my rule, but they are mistaken. The galaxy is mine to command." Alex looked at her, his mind whirling. She spoke with such certainty, such authority, that it was hard to imagine anyone could challenge her. But if she was this powerful, why had they been targeted? Why had she been the one chosen as the target of an attack? Zerath turned to him then, her gaze softening just a little. "You are safe here," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. "Stay close. I will handle this." Despite the chaos unfolding around them, there was something about her tone that put him at ease. It wasn't the words themselves, but the way she said them, firm, unyielding, and full of confidence. It was the same confidence that had made her the queen of an entire galaxy, the same confidence that had allowed her to stand undefeated in the arena. She was not worried. And for some reason, that made Alex feel a little less anxious. The ship jolted again, and this time the lights flickered briefly, followed by the loud screech of metal as something large collided with the hull. Zerath's eyes flashed with determination. "They're boarding," she said, stepping away from the control panel. "We will deal with them ourselves." Before Alex could process what she meant, Zerath's guards were already moving into position. The air around them seemed to crackle with energy, and Alex could feel his own pulse quicken. He didn't belong here. He was an outsider, a human, a soldier who had no place in the middle of this galactic conflict. And yet here he was, standing at the center of it all. Zerath turned to him once more, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that left him breathless. "Do not underestimate your place in this, Alex. You have been chosen, by fate, by the galaxy, and by me, and there are forces that would see you fail." She moved toward him in one swift motion, placing a hand on his shoulder. The touch was unexpectedly warm, and for a brief moment, Alex felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. "But you will not fail, not as long as I am here." There was no question in her voice. No doubt, she had chosen him and she would protect him. Alex didn't fully understand why, but in that moment, he knew he would do whatever it took to help her. He didn't know what she saw in him, but he could feel something stirring inside himself. A sense of purpose, a connection to something much larger than himself. As the door to the control room slid open, Zerath's warriors sprang into action, moving with a fluidity and grace that only came from years of combat training. Alex followed them, unsure of his role but determined to stick close to the queen. He had no idea what kind of danger awaited them, but he couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. They moved quickly through the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. He didn't know what he was supposed to do, but Zerath had been clear. Stay close, and that's what he intended to do. Suddenly, the group stopped. A low, mechanical hum filled the air, followed by a series of sharp clanks. Alex's breath caught in his throat as the sounds grew louder. The mercenaries were close. Zerath raised her hand, signaling for the others to be silent. "Prepare yourselves," she whispered, her voice low but commanding. "This will not be easy, but we will prevail." Alex nodded, his eyes scanning the hallway. He didn't know what to expect, but he was ready. He had to be. A moment later, the door at the far end of the corridor exploded inward, and a group of heavily armed mercenaries flooded into the room. Alex barely had time to react before Zerath's warriors were on them, the sound of combat filling the air. Blaster fire erupted, and the ship seemed to shake again, as if the very walls were protesting the violence unfolding within them. Alex watched in awe as Zerath's warriors fought with lethal precision, but it wasn't just their speed or skill that impressed him. It was the way they moved together, as if they were one unit, anticipating each other's moves, each strike perfectly coordinated. And then, in the middle of the chaos, Zerath stepped forward, her presence commanding the battlefield. She raised her hand, and with a flick of her wrist, a wave of energy shot from her palm, sending several mercenaries flying backwards. The power in her movements was staggering, and Alex could only watch, stunned, as she decimated their forces with ease. But as the last of the attackers fell, Zerath's gaze shifted back to him. Her expression was unreadable, but Alex could sense something in the way she looked at him. She had brought him into this world, and now, in this moment of battle, he realized just how much he still had to learn. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was her mate. And that meant his life and the fate of the galaxy were now intertwined with hers. Alex's mind raced as the last of the mercenaries were taken down. The ship was eerily silent now, save for the sound of breathing, heavy with the tension of what had just transpired. Zerath stood in the middle of the hallway, her chest rising and falling as she surveyed the scene, her warriors now standing at attention, waiting for her next command. Alex, on the other hand, was still trying to process what had just happened. The attack had been swift and brutal, but Zerath had handled it with such efficiency that it was hard to believe she was only one person. She had stopped the attackers with nothing more than a wave of her hand, a show of power that left Alex in awe. He had seen wars, heard stories of battles fought across the stars, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer strength of the woman standing in front of him. Her warriors were now securing the area, checking for any remaining threats, but Alex couldn't tear his eyes away from Zerath. She was something else, something beyond anything he had ever encountered. The queen wasn't just a ruler, she was a force of nature, and in that moment Alex realized just how much danger she was in and how much he still had to learn. "You handled them well," Alex said, his voice still hoarse from the adrenaline of the fight. Zerath turned to him, her expression unreadable. For a moment Alex thought she might not answer, but then she spoke, her voice steady and calm. "I did what needed to be done, but this is far from over, Alex. The galaxy is not a peaceful place, and we are only just beginning to see the forces that are working against us." Alex's stomach tightened at the weight of her words. He had always known that the galaxy was full of conflict, but hearing Zerath speak of it with such certainty made it clear just how dangerous her position truly was. She was more than a queen. She was the heart of an empire, and the galaxy would never let her reign in peace. "So what happens now?" Alex asked, his eyes scanning the hallway where the battle had just unfolded. The ship was now eerily quiet, and the echoes of the recent violence seemed to linger in the air. "Do we continue with the mission? Are we going to face more attacks?" Zerath's gaze hardened, her eyes flickering with an intensity that made Alex feel small in comparison. "We will face more attacks," she replied, her tone low but firm. "My enemies are numerous. They see me as a threat, and they will do whatever it takes to bring me down." She paused, her gaze shifting toward the view outside the ship's window. Stars drifted by, distant and cold, the void of space stretching endlessly before them. It was beautiful in a way, but also empty, a reminder of just how vast and uncaring the universe could be. "But we will not back down," Zerath continued, her voice more resolute than ever. "I have fought too long to let anyone take what I have built. The galaxy belongs to me, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure that it stays that way." Alex nodded slowly, taking in her words. He didn't fully understand the weight of the empire she ruled over, nor the depth of the enemies she faced, but one thing was clear. Zerath was not someone who could be easily defeated. She was powerful, determined, and driven by a sense of duty that few could comprehend. As they continued through the ship, the silence between them grew more palpable. Alex couldn't help but feel that he was being pulled deeper into something that was far beyond him. He had never wanted to be a part of galactic politics or power struggles, but now it seemed he had no choice. Zerath had chosen him. She had declared him her mate, and that meant that his life and his future were tied to hers. It wasn't just a matter of survival anymore. Alex realized that he was part of something much bigger, something that could change the entire course of the galaxy. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a player in a game of cosmic importance, and his role, whether he understood it or not, was crucial. "Do you ever wonder why you were chosen?" Alex asked, his voice tentative. "I'm just a soldier, I'm not a leader, I'm not some kind of hero. What makes me worthy?" Zerath stopped walking and turned to face him, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that took him by surprise. She didn't answer immediately, her gaze searching his face as if trying to understand something. Then, at last, she spoke. "Do you think you are unworthy?" she asked, her voice soft but piercing. "You are human, yes, but you are not the weak, fragile species that many think you are. I see something in you, Alex, something that others do not." She stepped closer, her presence filling the space between them. Alex could feel her warmth, the weight of her words settling over him. "The bond between us is not just about power or politics or anything else that others might think. It is something deeper, something ancient." Alex opened his mouth to ask what she meant, but she raised a hand, silencing him. "I will explain in time," she said. "But for now, know this, you are important, more than you know. Your species, your people, have something inside them that others lack. You have the potential to change the course of history. That is why you were chosen." Her words struck Alex like a thunderbolt. He had never thought of himself as anything special, let alone important in any grand, cosmic sense. But standing here in front of Zerath, hearing her speak of him in such a way, made him wonder if maybe he had been wrong about himself all along. Maybe he wasn't just a soldier. Maybe he was part of something far greater. Zerath continued, her voice growing more intense. "The universe is full of chaos. There are forces that would see us all crumble, but together we have the power to reshape it. And you, Alex, are a key part of that power." Alex's heart pounded in his chest. It was as if the entire weight of the galaxy was resting on his shoulders. He had never asked for this. He hadn't asked to be her mate or to become part of the galactic struggle that was now unfolding around him. But as he looked into Zerath's eyes, he couldn't deny that he felt something deep inside him that was starting to wake up. He didn't know what it was, but it was there. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Alex admitted, his voice quieter now. "I'm just a soldier. I don't have any special skills. I don't know how to lead or how to fight like you." Zerath stepped even closer until there was barely any space between them. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch firm but gentle. "You don't need to be ready," she said. "You just need to trust in yourself. You have already proven that you are capable, and that is enough." For a moment, Alex was silent, letting her words sink in. He didn't know if he could live up to the expectations Zerath had placed on him. He didn't know if he could ever truly be the man she believed he could be. But one thing was certain, his life was no longer his own. He had been pulled into something far greater than himself, and now he would have to rise to meet it. They continued down the corridor, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound that filled the space between them. Zerath's warriors walked in formation, their eyes ever watchful, always on alert. They were ready for anything, just as Zerath was. She had lived through countless battles, countless challenges, and had come out victorious every time. Alex wasn't sure what kind of future lay ahead, but he knew one thing: he was no longer just an observer in this war. He was part of it, and that meant he had a role to play. Ahead of them, the door to the command center slid open. The ship had entered a new phase of its journey, one that would take them deep into enemy territory. Alex could feel the weight of what was about to happen pressing down on him. He wasn't ready. But with Zerath by his side, maybe, just maybe, he could find the strength to become the person she believed he could be. Let me know if you'd like any changes or further adjustments. The tension in the air was palpable as Zerath and Alex made their way through the command center of the ship. The room was filled with the low hum of technology and the quiet murmurs of the officers working tirelessly at their stations. The light from the holographic displays flickered, casting strange, shifting shadows on the walls. Zerath's presence was as commanding as ever, and Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of awe as they walked through the bustling room. He had never seen a leader quite like her. She moved with an assurance that seemed to bend the very air around her, and every person in the room acknowledged her authority the moment she entered. Her warriors, standing at attention around the perimeter of the room, did not look at her with fear, but with deep respect. It was clear that Zerath was not just a ruler. She was a force of nature, one who had shaped the galaxy in her image. Alex, on the other hand, was still grappling with the weight of everything that had happened. He was just a soldier, a human in a galaxy filled with vastly more powerful beings, and yet he had been thrust into the center of an intergalactic conflict. Zerath had chosen him as her mate, a declaration that had not only stunned him but had set in motion events he couldn't fully comprehend. The attack on her ship, the mercenaries, the political games being played in the shadows, they were all part of something much bigger. And Alex had a role in it now, whether he was ready or not. As they reached the center of the command room, Zerath turned to face Alex, her eyes softening just slightly. "You've been through much already, Alex, but this is where it truly begins." He met her gaze, unsure of how to respond. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice quiet but filled with determination. "We've faced attacks and you've been clear about your enemies, but what's next? Where do we go from here?" Zerath's expression hardened slightly, her focus shifting back to the array of displays in front of her. "Now we move forward," she said, her voice low but filled with certainty. "We will strike at the heart of those who threaten us. We will find the forces behind the mercenaries and eliminate them before they have the chance to regroup. We are not the only ones who seek to shape the future of the galaxy, but I will not let anyone take that from me." Her words were powerful, filled with the same resolve Alex had seen in her from the moment they first met. She wasn't just talking about a war for power. She was speaking about something deeper, about the future of the galaxy, the lives of millions, and the peace that had been hard-won under her rule. Alex nodded, trying to steady his racing thoughts. He still wasn't sure what his place was in all of this. He was a human, a soldier from a tiny world, and yet he had been pulled into something far bigger than himself. The weight of his new role was heavy, and he couldn't shake the feeling that everything he had known was now slipping away, replaced by something unknown and at times terrifying. But there was one thing he knew for sure: he couldn't back down, not now. Not when Zerath was depending on him. The doors to the command room opened, and a tall, armored figure stepped inside. It was one of Zerath's high-ranking officers, a warrior who had served her for years. His armor was a deep, dark green, and his face was stern, his expression unreadable. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly before turning to Alex. "We have located the source of the mercenaries. They are working with a faction within the council, one that has long opposed your rule." Zerath's eyes flashed with anger at the mention of the council. Alex had heard rumors of this council, an intergalactic body of political leaders who governed various factions in the galaxy, but he had never understood just how much power they held. Now it seemed one of them was conspiring against Zerath, using mercenaries to destabilize her reign. "How soon can we act?" Zerath asked, her voice cold, her gaze never leaving the officer's face. The officer hesitated for a moment before replying. "We can be in position within the hour, but there are complications. The faction has powerful allies and they will not give up easily." Zerath's expression softened only slightly, but her voice remained firm. "Complications are nothing new. Prepare the fleet. We move immediately." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. This wasn't just a matter of defending a ship or a single battle. This was going to be a full-scale strike against a political faction that held significant power in the galaxy. Zerath wasn't just going to eliminate the mercenaries. She was going after the people behind them, the ones who sought to destroy everything she had fought for. He was part of this now. He couldn't back out, not when Zerath was leading the charge. And not when he had already made the decision to stand by her, no matter what came next. As the officers began to move, making preparations for the battle ahead, Zerath turned to Alex once more. "Stay close," she said. "I'll need you with me when we make our move." This isn't just about defeating enemies, it's about sending a message. "A message?" Alex asked, confused. Zerath's lips curled into a small, fierce smile. "That no one, no matter how powerful, can stand against me and my people. That the galaxy belongs to those who are strong enough to claim it." Alex nodded, understanding now. This wasn't just about defeating enemies, it was about establishing her authority once and for all. She wasn't going to let anyone threaten her reign, no matter where they came from or how many allies they had. She had fought too hard to lose it now. The ship hummed as it prepared for battle. Alex could feel the adrenaline beginning to build inside him, the anticipation of what was to come. The corridors buzzed with the activity of soldiers and officers preparing for the conflict ahead. Everyone had a role to play, and Alex knew that his was to stand by Zerath's side, ready to face whatever dangers awaited them. Within moments, the ship jumped into hyperspace, the stars around them blurring into streaks of light as they hurtled toward their destination. Alex stood beside Zerath, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with the weight of what was happening. The battle would be fierce, it would be dangerous, but Alex had made his choice. He would fight by her side. He would do whatever it took to help her win, not just for her, but for the future of the galaxy, and for the chance at something greater than either of them had ever dreamed of. As the ship moved closer to its target, Zerath turned to Alex, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Stay focused," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "We are on the brink of something great, and we will not fail." Alex looked at her, his doubts melting away in the face of her unshakable resolve. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for sure: he was with her. Together, they would shape the galaxy, and nothing would stand in their way.